I've worked with software engineers at Microsoft for over 14 years and in the industry for decades. The very best software engineers that I've worked with have an insatiable curiosity for learning. They have a growth mindset. Today I'm going to show you how the Linux cat command works. Not because this is going to help you land your first job or a better job, but because wanting to understand how it works and taking the steps to learn how it works will give you the mindset that you need for success. Let's get started. When I mentor college students, one of the questions I most get asked is, what's the one thing that I can do to get better at computer science? I always say that you really need to cultivate the skill of learning new things quickly. No matter what shiny tech that you're an expert at today, chances are that in 5 or 10 years, nobody's really going to be using that tech anymore. So what's the key thing to learning something new quickly? As quickly as libraries, frameworks, and programming languages change, a lot of the fundamentals underneath them change much more slowly. I found in my career that it's really helpful to understand how things work at one level of abstraction lower than where you work every single day. And that brings me to the point of today's video. We're going to take a look at how a simple command, the Linux cat command, really works. Along the way, we're also going to take a look at a set of tools that we can use in Linux to figure out how other commands in Linux work as well. We're even going to go change what the cat command does by having it print out the text upside down as something fun to do. So let's get started. Okay, so what kind of executable is the Linux cat command? We can use the Unix which command to find out where that binary is located on disk. We can see that the cat command lives in the /bin directory on this machine. If I list the contents of this directory, I can see that it's an executable that's about 35K in size. I think it's probably a native executable, so let's see what kind of executable it is. We can see that it's an ELF x86-64 binary, which is of course a 64-bit Linux executable. The ELF file format, or the executable and linkable format, is the native executable file format for Linux. One of the great things about Linux is that it's open source so that we can read the source code for any of its binaries. The next thing we have to do is figure out what package in this Ubuntu distribution of Linux that I'm using the cat command came from. We can use the dpkg command to look up the name of the package that the cat command is located in, and as it turns out, it's the core utils package. From the name of the core utils package, we can use dpkg to download the source code for the package. Let's first make a directory that holds the source code, and then we can run the apt-get source command to download the source code for core utils. Whoops, by default we have to tell apt-get source where to download the sources for this distribution. We can do so by editing the etc/apt/sources.list file. We need to uncomment the first deb-source attribute in this file. Now we need to update again by running sudo apt update. Now we can fetch the source code for the core utils package. Now let's look at the source code for cat using cat. We can see that there are 767 lines of code in this version of cat.c. What if we wanted to make a really simple change to the source code and recompile it? Let's edit the description of the cat command that's printed out when the user runs it with the -- help option. Now let's build the sources. So we first have to run the configure script in the root directory of the core utils sources to generate our make file. Now that we've done that, we can run make to build the sources on this machine. Okay, so we finished compiling. Let's see if our changes made it in. The binaries were compiled into the source directory of the core utils sources. When we look at the size of the files in the directory, we can see that this is quite a bit larger at 174K than the 35K of the cat command that came packaged with my operating system. I suspect that this is due to having symbolic debug information packaged inside of the executable file. So let's take a look inside of it using the objdump command. If we run objdump with a -s switch, it tells us to not only disassemble the sources, but to also interleave any embedded source code that was contained inside of the symbolic debug information in the file. We can see that this file clearly has source code information embedded inside of it. What if we wanted to compile this package in such a way that it would install the generated binaries for use by any other user on the system as well? It turns out we can use the standard make target install-strip to do so. Now after we've run it, let's see where the commands went. Let's run which again. We can see that the generated binaries are in the /user/local/bin directory. Now when we run the cat command with the -- help flag, we can see that the changes that we made in the description have made it in. I've already created a GitHub repo for you, which contains a modified version of the cat sources that contains some code that will print out the contents of it, but upside down using Unicode characters. I'm going to leave it as an exercise up to the viewer for you to replace the cat.c and core utils sources that you've downloaded onto your machine with my modified cat.c so that you can create your own version of cat that prints whatever you want upside down. So hopefully this video was helpful in teaching you some tools that you can use to go off and start modifying the Linux operating system yourself. We've learned a number of things about how you can use tools such as which to find out where a binary is stored, how we can use the dpkg command to locate the package that a utility was installed with, and how we can locate the sources for where that package was compiled from, and how we can modify the package so that you can incorporate your own changes into your local copy of Linux. So hopefully this has whetted your appetite about the kinds of things that you can learn if you have the curiosity to learn a few tools and to try a few things on your own. If you want to follow along on this journey, please like and subscribe this video. And let me know in the comments below where your curiosity takes you and what other kinds of questions you would like to see me answer on this channel. Till next time.